An extremely common question I'm getting right now is when should I start buying gold? And honestly, I think that people are thinking about the answer to this question in the wrong way. They think there's some certain number of ounces, like 100 ounces or 500 ounces, or a certain dollar amount to get to. But unfortunately, the correct answer is it depends. But let me explain. Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Before I jump back into the video, I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Mantis Man for being the first to comment on yesterday's video. Thank you so much, it truly does help support the channel. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that I talk a lot about ratios. Yes, the market gold to silver ratio, but more importantly, your personal portfolio ratio. How much gold you hold compared to the amount of silver you hold. And I talk about these in terms of value. Maybe you want to hold 70% of your value in silver and 30% in gold, maybe a clean 50-50 split, or even 30% in silver and 70% of gold. The numbers aren't important, and that's really just something that you have to decide on your own based on your own risk tolerance. But what is important is deciding where you want to be in your portfolio. The reason I talk about this so much is because gold and silver don't move the same. Sometimes silver will outperform gold, and other times gold will outperform silver. Because they move differently, I believe that there's a value in owning both. And personally, I trade between gold and silver to maintain my target ratio. So, what if you're brand new? If you're just getting started, you will probably be sitting at 100% of your stack in silver and 0 in gold. So, when should you start to make that move towards gold? And I think it depends entirely on two things: what type of portfolio you want to have and what type of gold you want to stack. So I'm going to start with some assumptions. Let's just say you've decided on a clean 50-50 split portfolio. Not because it's a great ratio or it's a perfect ratio, but because maybe you want to learn what it's like to even manage a ratio, and this 50-50 keeps math very easy. So the next assumption is I'm just going to assume you want to stack 1 gram gold bars. A 1 gram gold bar is worth roughly the same as a couple ounces of silver. That means you could easily stack 4 or 5 ounces of silver and trade 2 to 3 ounces to buy your first gram of gold. And congratulations, you're already winning. You've already built your ratio. You could just continue this process over and over and over. You could save up until you buy 4 or 5 ounces of silver, trade 2 to 3 of those ounces until you get your 1 gram gold, and continue this process until you get the amount of silver and gold that you want to hold. You'll end up with this 50-50 split in silver and gold in very divisible values. Unfortunately, the premium associated with this type of trade makes it very undesirable. These 1 gram bars have a high premium, and if you're losing out on cash when you're selling the silver and paying that high premium, it becomes a very expensive trade. So if that is your goal, I would honestly suggest buy the 2 ounces of silver and then buy the 1 gram of gold. A gram of gold isn't too much to really save for when we're talking about gold. So I think that if you really want the 1 gram golds, trading might not be your best bet. However, keeping that 50-50 split will look the same: 2 ounces of silver about to 1 gram of gold. And in this example, it doesn't take much silver before buying gold makes sense. But let's go to the opposite extreme. Let's say you don't want grams. Let's say you believe in the 1 ounce gold coins, 1 ounce eagles, or like this coin here, a 1 ounce buffalo, maybe even a maple. 1 ounce gold coins is what you ultimately want to own. Let's just say that's you. Well, now everything changes. At today's gold to silver ratio, you're talking about roughly 60 to 65 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. If your target is still that 50-50 split, then in theory, you would need to save up to about 120 to 130 ounces of silver and then trade that roughly half of your stack into the 1 ounce of gold. And that's how you'll end up with 60 to 65 ounces of silver and 1 ounce of gold. 50% in silver, 50% in gold, mission accomplished, congratulations. But even that example is making assumptions because maybe your target isn't 50-50. Maybe you want to lean heavier into silver, maybe a 70-30 split. Maybe heavier in gold, a 60% gold and 40% silver. Maybe you're somewhere in the extremes like 80-20. And maybe you don't want 1 ounce gold. Maybe you want 1/10 ounce gold or quarter ounce gold, half ounce gold. Do you see the problem? There's no one answer that fits everyone correctly. The correct answer depends on the size of gold you believe in and the ratio you're trying to achieve. If I could summarize this entire video into one sentence, it would be this. Wait to buy gold until you have enough silver that buying gold won't push you heavier into gold than you actually want to be. That's the entire framework. And let me show you why. Let's say you love the 1 ounce gold coin. You finally stack 65 to 70 ounces of silver that it would take to buy 1 ounce of gold. And you make the trade. How does your portfolio look now? It's almost or will be 100% gold and 0% silver. You technically own gold. I mean, you definitely own gold, but you don't own the ratio you wanted. And there's another problem, liquidity. Let's say a few months down the line, life happens. You need new tires or a deductible. You got to pay a medical bill, maybe a home repair. And when you used to have 70 ounces, maybe you only needed to sell 10 ounces, 20 ounces, but now you're concentrated all of that value into a single gold coin. So now instead of selling just a portion of your stack, you may be forced to selling the entire ounce of gold. And that's why I think having divisible forms of any metal you choose is very important. It's not bad to only want 1 ounce silver and 1 ounce gold, but to only have 1 ounce gold may be putting you in a tough spot. Another thing to think about is having a cash reserves. That might matter just as much as having the metal themselves. Having the cash on the side to protect your stack from small, inconvenient purchases or expenses might be very, very useful. If you're anything like me, before I started stacking, I wasn't able to keep anything set aside if it was cash. Cash was just way too liquid. I was able to spend it on anything I wanted at any time. Owning the silver is what helped me build some wealth set aside. And once I had a little bit of silver set aside, I was able to start buying small gold pieces. And it wasn't until I felt like I was truly secure in my stack, I started setting some actual cash aside. But because I did it that way, there were multiple times early on that I had to sell my entire stack to fund some purchases or emergencies. If you don't want to be like me, set some cash aside now. It doesn't have to be a lot, just enough that you won't have to sell a lot of your metals. Really just make sure that your finances are stable as early on as you can, because the worst time to sell your precious metals is when you don't want to. And the easiest stack to sell is usually the one you are forced into building too aggressively. So when should you start buying gold? My answer is not simple, but basically figure out the ratio you want, figure out what size of gold you want, and then build enough silver to acquire that gold that keeps you within your target ratio. Don't buy gold just because you finally can. Buy gold because it fits the portfolio you're trying to build. And that is just a completely different mindset. So, what do you think? If you were to start over today from nothing, but you only had silver, what would be your first gold purchase? Would it be a gram? Would it be a tenth or a quarter? Or would you save all the way up for 1 full ounce? And if you're in this position where you're starting to look at gold and you haven't pulled the trigger, what are you thinking? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure to go check out my website at josephsreserves.com for any merchandise, zip-up bags, coffee mugs, and of course the It's Today Again coffee. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, go into the comments to start a conversation or continue one, share the video with someone you think may like it, and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, Just keep stacking.